Mark Clarke here, and I'm live from Radio Works. And today I'd like to share with you my story, which is going to be coming from my book, You Are Possible: How to Create Doable Success. Now, the reason why I'm creating this book is because lots of people tell me that with the work that I do, helping people to transform their lives, they want to know a way that they can actually do it themselves. And it will be a lot easier for me if I basically told you why I do this. I do it because for many years in my life, I struggled with challenges. I struggled with a lot of things in life. And if I'm going back to when I was younger, growing up as a child, I was the youngest of 5 children, where in my household, if you could just picture it, there was a mother who loved her sons, but there was a father who disciplined his children in a really tough way. We were brought up tough. So it wasn't anything for my dad to want to beat us, to be honest. And sometimes he would even beat my mum, you know, and this got very confusing for me. This led me to be a really troubled child, you know, running around in my little shorts and stuff at school, being the lovable rogue. I found that the only way I was getting attention at school was to misbehave. You know, I remember misbehaving so much at one stage that my teacher actually stuffed me in the bin, and she said to me, "Mark, you'll be nothing but rubbish in your life." And to be quite honest with you, through a lot of my choices later on, she wasn't wrong. But the thing about it back then, you know, I had a bit of an entrepreneurial skill. You know, I used to make, you know, those little chocolate Rice Krispies that we used to get at dinner time. Well, I tried to make them for myself, and I used to sell them, and I used to sell them to the kids at school. But eventually, that was just one of the things, my first ever business that my dad actually liquidated, because he was getting so fed up of all the mess that I'd leave in the kitchen. But going through school, again, like I said, I was a lovable rogue. And I never really sat down and did any education or passed any exams. I just basically drifted through school. So by the time I left school with no qualifications or anything, I basically decided to make my own choices in life. Because growing up, I decided, do you know what? Nobody's going to tell me what to do again. Because if the people who loved me weren't looking after me, why should anyone else? So as I left school, I tried to get work. I got fired from a number of jobs for a number of reasons. Some of them weren't actually my own. I didn't even try to really progress in my life because I just thought that life owed me a living. And if I tried, why wasn't anything happening? So basically, I used to hang around with guys that used to sell drugs, commit crime. In actual fact, my first ever motivational talk was from a gangster who said to me, "In this country, you get paid 12 or 52 times out of 300 and odd days a year." And out of his hand, out of his back pocket, he pulled out a big bunch of money. And he said to me, "Well, in this country, because you get paid that way, I get paid my way, and I get my money every day." And at that time, it was quite motivational to me. So I basically started a life of crime, where I was either the guy that could get you drugs over here or drugs over there from each part of the country, or I could get you a stolen car, or I could get you jewelry, or I could get you car stereos. I was a bit of what we called an alpha-daily, a bit of a wheeler dealer. But, you know, it wasn't until the late 80s I was smoking cannabis. By that time, I was in and out of prison, where I saw the drug scene in the UK was getting big, especially around crack cocaine. And at that time, I was a bit of a drug user anyway. I was taking cocaine. I was taking the party drugs like ecstasy and trips and acid and all the rest of it. But later on, I saw that crack cocaine was making a lot of money for people. And I got interested in that. It really drew me in, the quickness of the money and what it bought. You know, they do say that money is the root of all evil, and it was. It was the root to my evils. It was the root to my evils where I became very selfish. It was the root of my evils, where I became somebody that just didn't care, was just all about money and the women and everything that came with it. But you know, it was on one fatal day, in a situation that is long since passed my mind, but I'll never forget, when I call what happened was the beginning of the end. You know, there's a saying, never get high on your own supply. And that day I did. That one moment, that one bad choice led me to 20 years of consequences, where by taking crack cocaine, I lost everything and I lost everybody. It was literally in the blink of an eye. I lost all my respect. I lost all my morals. I lost all my code. Occupational hazard to feed my habit. I got involved with the police and prolific offending just to feed my habit. My mum, she lost a son. My mum lived my life of addiction with me. She actually said to me one day, Mark, I live the consequences of your life and I don't even get the benefits of the high. And that used to hurt. But my addiction would rage further than that, because from taking crack cocaine, I'd escalate into taking heroin. And me being an all or nothing kind of guy, I went straight to the needle. I just injected straight away. I went straight to injecting. And to be quite honest with you, I thought I found heaven in a high. It was the most comforting feeling that it gave me, and it was so euphoric. And so I began to chase that life of being a heroin addict and the crack cocaine addict. And from there, wow, my life took even more of a dangerous toll, where I would literally lose my leg because of an infection. I would suffer from ulcers and all kinds of manner of injuries because of injecting. Today, I don't even have any veins. At my worst, I was 7.5 stone, eating off of the streets. Institutions, prisons, they just became a thing to me. I suffered 2 heart attacks, died once. I even at one point tried suicide, because as far as I was concerned, what was the point? You know, people ask about heaven and hell, and I say, well, you know what? I'm living in hell, so what difference does it make? So I might as well have sold my soul, because I was in hell. And the one thing that used to really get me wasn't just the taking of the drugs. I just couldn't understand, why do I use when I don't want to use, and when I shouldn't use, I still do? Somebody answer me that. Because I did treatment, I did rehabs, I did AA, I did NA, I did all of the different programs, but nobody could tell me why I'm going to end up doing this again. My family were lost. I was lost. But in one last attempt, I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to give it one final shot. And it's too long to tell the whole story of how I got into treatment, but it was miraculous. I always believe there's a higher power looking out for us. So I entered into a treatment facility in New South Wales, where I gave myself my one chance. My one chance, where I had to believe that it is possible for me to break free from addiction, or else I would just go and get the gun and blow my brains out, because I'm fed up of being fed up. And I went into a treatment center, and it was actually called Teen Challenge. And boy, did it challenge me. It challenged my thinking. It challenged my thoughts. It challenged everything about myself. But I was really blessed to have some real men of faith who really supported me. And I had a good surroundings of people who really were there for me as well. But my biggest enemy was me. Because in my mind, I didn't think I could be free. In my mind, I really thought that I can't get away from addiction. But then I actually discovered that I could. If each day I began to change the story of what I think about myself. I remember putting up on my ceiling just to have some focus. Today, I choose not to use. Today, I choose not to leave the rehab. And boy, that rehab was worth leaving because it was so disciplined. There was even a time where you would get wash-ups for minor things. I once got a wash-up for having an eyelash in my sink and 7 days wash-up. But I suppose I needed the discipline because I led an undisciplined life. It was dysfunctional. And I believe without discipline, you don't have purpose or direction. So as I went through this program, which was actually supposed to be 9 months, but I actually stayed there 16. And once I completed this program, a question was asked to me. And that question was, Mark, now that you're clean, who are you? And the thing about it was, I didn't know who I was. I was even the mask that I put on as the lovable rogue at school who was trying to hide from everybody that he was in a dysfunctional family that had emotional and behavioral problems going on within it. Then I was the criminal, putting on that mask to actually stay alive, because during that life I was shot, stabbed, and gutted like a fish. So I had to put on mask to even survive in prison. To actually putting on the biggest mask of all, the drug addict. So over the 5 years that I actually remained at the center, where I became a support worker, where I became a volunteer doing outreaches, talking to other addicts, I actually began to learn a lot about myself because I attended their school of further learning, where we learned counseling, where we learned about the human condition, what we're like as people, where we heard about certain doctrines and theologies in applications to life, where we learned about psychosocial disorders for young people and adults. I actually realized I found out a lot about myself as well as people who were in dependency. And from there, I actually found my purpose. Because every single addict I spoke to, and I said this to them, is it like, why do I use when I don't want to use, and when I shouldn't use, I still do? Is that what it's really like? That something has gone wrong deep within you and gets the better of you every time? That it's so predictable that the minute you decide to do good, your using self takes charge and you end up doing the wrong thing? Is it like that? And you could be guaranteed that every single person said it was that. And what I then realized was that all of my teachings that I took from doing that, I found out I had a program that I actually developed. You know, because I believe in life, sometimes things don't have to look like they're coming together for them to come together. And I also believe that you can be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that a lot of dependencies are actually, and actual mental health issues are based upon thought life. And all of my teachings were around that. So I decided to take a risk. I decided to challenge drug and alcohol dependency. But during that time, I had to suffer a great loss. My mum, who saw me get clean, who saw me start to change my life, I think part of my addiction actually aided her illness, and she passed away in the August of 2011. And it still hurts today, but I know she's watching over me, because everything that she left behind, I took to start the charity that we have today called the Walk to Freedom, where from her inheritance that she left me I started a charity to help people who were like me. And I do it in her honor because of all she gave me. You know, like I said before, she said, I live the consequences of your life and I don't get the benefits of the high mark. And I also realized that there were families who suffered like my mum. So I started a charity called the Walk to Freedom, where I put to practice everything that I put together in this program and developed a brand new recovery program that today has seen many people freed from addiction, that today has seen families being brought back together, get saved from addiction. I also developed a drug and alcohol course for people who had a user in the home, but have never been a user themselves, and for professionals. Because I don't believe you have to have a broken leg to know how to fix one. So I decided to build these courses, and we've also managed to tutor and mentor over 100 people with these courses. And they've taken them back home and they've implemented them either in their services or either in their homes. And we're seeing lives change. But then, like I said earlier, I realized that in the human condition, there is nothing different that it takes for an addict to want to change their life around than what it takes for anybody else to want to change their life around. Whether you want to change your life for a better, to live a better life, or whether you want to change your life and start a business, go on a new venture. Because I believe that we all, as Les Brown says, we all have greatness within. I believe that we all are possible. But I believe that life can hit us so many times that it makes things seem impossible. But that doesn't mean that it's not possible. So I've decided to take everything that I've learned with the people, the brilliant people that I work with now who transform their lives. And it's not just people who are addicts. I work with young people who are getting into gangs, who are on the borders of exclusions. And I use the very same principles. And I've seen them all become free. And I want to give that opportunity to the world through my story. I want to tell them that you really have got no excuse. Because if this 7.5 stone drug addict can make his life possible, so can you. And through my book, through my workshops, through my training, through everything I want to do, I want to tell the world that you're possible, no matter what you're going through. People say, you know, bad times may be here, but don't worry, they don't last long, because the good times are around the corner. And don't worry, because the good times don't last long, and neither do the bad. But it's the story that we tell ourselves in those times is what makes the difference. And I want to tell the world my story, that it is possible to be free. I love the word freedom. There's nothing greater. For me, when I close my eyes, and if you want to close your eyes with me and imagine what freedom means to you, mine is a big stallion being opened at a gate and just running free across a field to do whatever it likes. And I want to help and support other people to find, to be the success they want to see. And when my book is published, you are possible. You are possible. And I want to take you on a journey and hold your hand and show you how to create doable success through what I'm going to call the belief system. And I want to hold your hand on that journey like mine was held, and to help you to become the success you want to see. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank Marina and everybody at Radio Works who are doing a brilliant job for giving me this time to share my story with you. And I hope one day, if you happen to pick up my book, or you happen to see me somewhere doing a talk, that you would want to do the same too. Infectious. I want to be the biggest infection known to man. that people affect their lives for change. So I want to thank Marina and everybody at Radio Works for this opportunity. And I just want to leave you with this one message. Henry Ford said this: the person who said I can, the person who said I can't are both right. I want to ask you, which are you? And if you're the person who says I can, then everything is possible. I want to thank you for your time again. And just remember, you are a passionate, possible person, no matter the situation. Thank you.